I just wonder if there's a way to train your mind to like, as soon as you get that urge, you're like, no, and you go do the thing you know you're supposed to do.
Essentially, you have a trigger and then you have a response to that. And then you're either reinforced or punished for that response. And
Right.
then the next time you face that scenario or trigger, you choose your response based on what you were reinforced for or punished. Apparently, that's what most YouTubers use this.
Really?
This is the high end editing software. Yeah.
What does it cost?
It's 24 bucks a month paid annually, which comes out to 250 something on the year.
That's not bad at all, actually.
Not bad at all. I when I was thinking about it, if I compare it to a course on editing, learning editing, this is probably better than a course on editing. Actually getting the software to edit and doing the edits myself, I've learned way more about it than I would have if I would have just taken a course on it.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be like a proxy for like thinking you're doing hard work
I, as we've talked, that's tough, man.
instead of just actually doing the thing.
This whole, dude, this is that exact thought has crossed my mind probably every 5 minutes since buying Adobe Premiere Pro. Because when I bought it, that was after our last pod when we talked. My girlfriend was like, just pick an Alex Hermosi video and do like copy the exact video. Find a short that you like, just try and remake it yourself. And so downloaded it to do that. And then 5 seconds in, didn't even know where to start. It's like, oh, why don't I just watch a YouTube course on this? And then it crossed my mind of don't fucking do that. Just figure it out, man. Like search the exact thing you want to figure out. But if I go watch an hour long Adobe Premiere Pro intro course, I'm just going to waste an hour of my day feeling like I'm learning something.
Yeah,
But
but if you already are doing the thing and then seeking outside help, I think that's different than like not having done it. You know, it's like if you're reading a book on entrepreneurship without having a business, it's like, oh, like,
yep,
but if like you just started a business and you're reading a book on entrepreneurship, it's like, okay, like this is applicable. This makes sense. I can use this. Other than that, then it's just mental masturbation, I think.
exactly. And the next level of that for me has been picking the exact thing that I need to learn and only searching for that. So when I was making those reels and trying to add captions to them, there's 400 other videos on how to make great YouTube reels or how to use Adobe Premiere Pro, like editing tricks, like your top 10 editing tricks. And so tempting to click on all those, but I just need to learn how to put the captions on and then I can move on.
Right.
And that's been a huge thing I've had to catch myself on a lot.
Just not going down those types of rabbit holes or
Just not going down those types of rabbit holes, similar to just in the past. I think I've had that tendency to prioritize learning, aka mental masturbation, over pushing through the pain of it sucking to end the day and feel like, oh, I put hours of work into figuring this thing out, but I watched 3 hours of YouTube videos that aren't relevant to the thing I'm trying to actually do.
right.
Um, so yeah, perfect example would be I just wanted to put the captions on the shorts and I looked that up on YouTube and then I watched 2 hours of editing secrets and Premiere Pro. And at the end of the day, I feel like I did a bunch, but I still don't have captions on the videos. And all of those things I thought I learned, I probably didn't even, probably not going to remember them tomorrow. I can't even fathom the amount of things I've been watching YouTube video on and just thought how mind blowing it was. And just thinking, I learned a shit ton from that video. And then the next day, I don't even remember what the video was about. Or I
The
sitting there
timing.
and I'm just asking myself, how do I apply this? And coming up blank.
Yeah, I mean, you also just avoided yourself going down. If you're like me, just pointless, stupid videos that aren't relevant to anything.
It's
That's
a
I wonder if you
beautiful
could
and
do.
dangerous tool.
I wonder if you could do like you could train yourself to like whenever you get the urge to do that, do you like flip it with like if you get the urge to, I don't know, like watch porn or something. It's like as soon as you get that urge, it's like fuck that, and you go like watch something else. So like if you're on your video, like instead of like you like is there like a term for that?
The Yes, there is. Let me look it up because that's a big Tony Robbins thing, actually. Keep going.
Is it?
I'm gonna try and look up what it is.
Because like I think I feel like this is on a roundabout way of avoiding procrastination because sometimes what we deem as hard work is just like cover up for procrastination. Like if you were just to sit there watching hours on hours of Adobe Pro videos, like I don't think that's a bad use of your time, but like what's the net gain out of that? You're going to retain maybe 10% of it, but you never really did anything with it. But like throughout that whole time, if it's like if you watch one video and then you're like, oh, like I notice so there's got to be some kind of training that we have done over the years from like being kids, like when you get some kind of urge, you act on it really quick, right? Like, you know what I mean? So like as you're going through this, I don't know if this is really on topic with anything we're talking about, but I just wonder if there's a way to train your mind to like, oh, I notice I want to watch YouTube reels on how to make better YouTube reels. As soon as you get that urge, you're like, no, and you go do the thing you know you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know what
I know exactly what you're talking about.
like James Clear, like kind of is like almost like a form is building a habit,
Yep.
like but almost like the inverse. Like you're building a habit, but you're also breaking. You're not like I'm in my head. This makes a lot of sense, but when I say it out loud, I don't know if it does.
No, it makes total sense. And I am just like, just really neuro linguistic programming. That's what it is.
That's what that is.
NLP.
Fuck, I was talking
Yes.
about it like yesterday. I guess I don't even know what it means.
Well, maybe that's not exactly what it is, but that's a big Tony Robbins thing, neuro linguistic programming. But in his book, Unlimited Power, I think that's the book. That exact thing, dude, it's crazy. Take chewing your fingernails, for example. He will run people through mental exercises where they will, I don't want to get it wrong. I'm going to reread this section, make sure I get it right. But he will run them through mental exercises where they will imagine whatever the trigger is that causes them to want to chew on their fingernails, whether it's being nervous or being bored or something like that. He'll put them in that mental state and then he'll have them picture chewing on their fingernails. Like they go into the state, he has them picture chewing on their fingernails, and then he has them picture doing something else productive. And he runs through a cycle where he creates that trigger state. And then he has the image of chewing on their fingernails and the image of something being productive. And he has them imagine the fingernail image and then the productivity image. And he has them quickly swap in your head. You imagine either the productive one overtaking the fingernail one, or this one burning and this one coming to light or whatever. And sometimes he'll attach it to a sound. He'll have the person actually get in a state of boredom or whatever, imagine chewing their fingernails and then saying whoosh, and then imagining doing the productive thing. And if they do that enough, it creates this trigger and feedback loop in their brain to where they have that trigger, they feel bored, anxious, nervous, whatever. They feel the urge to go chew their fingernails, but then immediately their mind switches in the productive thing. So that urge for the fingernails then gets put on the productive thing. And he claims he's helped thousands of people stop bad habits just doing that.
Really?
But that's something I've been really curious about too, for sure, because especially training Comet, this is another. I was thinking about making a YouTube video on this actually. And I have a really good title too that I'm excited about. I'll save that for a second. But the way dogs learn is called classical conditioning. And the one dog trainer I follow has this, calls it the 3-term contingency. Lots of random words nobody's going to care about when they listen to this. But essentially, you have a scenario or an environment or a trigger, and then you have a response to that. And then you're either reinforced or punished for that response.
Right.
And then the next time you face that scenario or trigger, you choose your response based on what you were reinforced for or punished. Mosey talks about this a lot too. But for Comet, for whatever reason, when dogs walk by, if that's the scenario, he just barks his freaking head off. And so the act of barking is reinforcing for him, and then the dog goes away. So that reinforces that the next time that happens, he chooses that behavior. But if I sit there and I'm out there with him and I have his little prong collar on, which like hurts him, like pinches him, when I pull on it, the dog walks by, he starts barking, and I freaking yank that thing and it just pinches him. Then the next time, he's less likely to do that. You do that enough times, then that trigger happens, he chooses a different response, and then I reward him for that. That's a million words, but this is actually a really exciting topic.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It sounds like what Mosey talks about too, when like not only for like employee retention, but also like prospects too. Like when they either sign up for a program and or like sign up for a call, giving some immediate reward, whatever that might be, just to register some type of positive feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does he say? Like, give a quick win early, whatever that might be.
As quick as possible. Him and Layla's recent content on training their employees has been pretty focused on that positive reinforcement and that exact concept of reinforcing behaviors you want to have happen. And they don't necessarily punish they don't necessarily punish behaviors, but they extinguish behaviors, and that they either don't address them or they won't positively enforce things.
I wonder if that notion like debunks the point of like PIPs, like a performance improvement plan. Like if you have a failing rep who is just obviously not putting up numbers, which probably means they're doing the wrong thing consecutively. Chances are, if you put them on some type of like PIP, what's the first thing they're going to do? Like ramp activity, probably do more of something, right? But if they're just constantly going through this loop of ramping activity and getting that enforcement loop, like what Comet's doing when a dog walks by, like you feel like that's just a recipe for disaster for whatever rep that is about to go into. So if you have a failing SDR who's making 200 calls a day and you put him on a PIP, he's probably going to try and make 300 calls a day because he's feel like he's not working hard enough. but he's just reinforcing negative habits more than he already was. Instead of when it comes to employee retention and morale, looking at, I don't know, looking at the root cause. Really, I guess it's even like a personal thing too. You could look at, I don't know, I never like really applied conditional. What was it? Conditional
Classical conditioning is the
classical, sorry,
base broad term,
classical conditioning. Yeah,
but that's a really good point because it's dependent upon what you're reinforcing, and it's really prevalent with Comet too. Of I have to be really careful with what I reinforce and or punish because there are times where I don't want him to jump on me or other people, but I do want him to run over to me when I tell him to come over here. So when I say come here and he runs over to me, that's a positive thing. That's what I want him to do. And I want to reinforce that. But if immediately after he jumps on me and then I reinforce at that point, I'm reinforcing the jumping and not necessarily the thing that I want him to do.
right.
And that plays out in sales too. There's I've read this a couple different places, but with closing techniques, that plays out really prevalently in sales of when a rep potentially uses a horrible closing technique or maybe pressure somebody into a sale or just uses some bad sales technique and they get the sale that reinforces to them to do that in the future, even though that was the wrong thing to do. So that's why a lot of sales practices are negative practices because you get reinforced when you close sales that way. And the sale might have just closed anyway,
Right.
or you might have actually hurt the sale, but it's still closed. But because it closed and because you use that technique, now you're reinforced to use it again in the future.
That's pretty crazy.
It is crazy,
I
huh?
never really thought about that.
Like the hard closes, the assumed closes, stuff like that. The data suggests it doesn't really work in a strategic selling environment. This is from Spin Selling, that book. They did a bunch of research on it, and it works slightly better. You get a slight uplift in sales if you use it in low ticket sales because it's like a $10 thing. It's easier just to buy the thing that you kind of want than it is to combat the salesman and get pissed off.
Right.
But in strategic sales, salespeople that have used hard closes and assumed closes and ended sales calls with, so when are we signing this thing? Or so can I put you on the books or some sort of hard assumed close? It actually really hurts sales. But the few times that it has worked, or for the reps that are new to the scene and were told to use that technique and they use it the first time and it works because the sale is just going to happen already, they are reinforced to continually do that over and over.
Think about it too in like sports, baseball. Like if you were, I mean, same concepts essentially, depending on which didn't really do. But
Exact same concept. You roll over through the 6 hole and you get a hit. You're reinforced to do that the next time, even though that's a horrible swing.
or like if your coach tells you, like, hey, you're not performing, like if you don't do so and so this season, like I'm gonna take your scholarship away, whatever it might be. Like you're gonna go into the cage and work on your shitty mechanics that you've been doing for, your last 50 games or 150 at bats. Probably gonna reinforce that bad habit already. But
Yep.
you think you're focusing on the right thing, which is working hard, and that hard work will reward you. But it's like just because you're working hard doesn't mean that you're working hard on the right thing. That's crazy. I never fucking applies to dogs. Who would have thought?
That is wild. I've been thinking about making a YouTube video about that. With the title, you ready for this? I was really proud of this one. The title, so backstory, what are the videos I sent you? The advice on content creation, and Mr. Beast says this too, but says to never even start filming or thinking through a video unless you can have a solid title and think of a really good thumbnail. And then you can work on the actual video. But if you can't think of a title and a thumbnail first, don't even attempt the video. So I was thinking through that, sitting there thinking about Comet, and that's been on my mind a lot since I got him, of how do I communicate to this thing that doesn't speak English?
Right.
And it's what a lot of dog training, just separate tangent I can go on, but there's a lot of stuff out there. So trying to think through how to do that best. And it kind of always comes back to this conditioning of you reward certain behaviors that you want and you punish other behaviors. And over time, they choose the behaviors that reward them most over
Right.
time. And so I was thinking through that and I was like, Comet's really changed my life in a lot of ways. He's taught me things in a lot of ways. A good title could be How a 14-pound Wiener Changed My Life.
It's not where I thought you were going, but yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah, that's kind of where did you think I was going?
Maybe like how my little wiener dog made me better at sales or something.
Close, but it's got to be catchy. It's got to be
Yeah,
edgy. How a 14-pound wiener changed my life.
I was homophobic, I might avoid it, but I mean,
Well, that's where I was kind of thinking through that too. Of is that part of the brand? How do I make it known that it's a wiener dog? How do I make sure
I would
people are
I
not?
would probably throw the dog. It's 2023, almost 2024. I'd probably throw the dog in there, where you might get the right crowd or the wrong crowd.
But I like the play on words. But yeah,
Where we're going.
maybe make wiener all caps and dog lowercase, or in the thumbnail, put the wiener dog on there. So
You have to somehow show you're talking about a dog, I feel like.
somehow have to put it on there that it would be
I
dog.
don't know if we're gonna be getting a lot of ambitious entrepreneurs hopping on
Yeah,
that.
well, good thing is nobody's gonna watch that video anyway. So
That's true. That's a good thing.
I was also thinking through my Mr. Beast intro. You know, he stands there and he's like, "My wiener dog taught me X," and he has the things that like pop up on the thing.
Right.
Like, I spent 3 months training a wiener dog, something like that. Or
You gotta get some B-rolls of Comet.
exactly, I got that was the other thing. I have lots of B-roll of Comet that I'll
Really?
throw in there. Oh, from when he's a puppy, dude, it's so cute. He's not even as big as my foot.
Just a little thing.
I have a video of him on my shoe, and he is not even as big as my shoe when he was a puppy. And I have tons of B-roll of Comet. So that would work perfectly. So I got to think through that video. Yeah. Eventually, there's a lot of stuff going through my mind actually. Let's back up.
Yeah. I'm with you. But a good segue, or even some kind of bringing it back around, is regardless of the activity and or the thing you're doing, you can get more out of that behavior by reinforcing it quickly and also reinforcing bad behavior also quickly, but making it known that it's bad behavior
Yes.
in all aspects.
I thanks for bringing us back, because I have
Sorry.
good thoughts on this too. I used to do this as a micro example, but after I read Atomic Habits and I still had my PlayStation, I would do 25 push-ups after every round of Call of Duty of Warzone.
Valid.
And Warzone, you can play 20 rounds of Warzone and look up and 6 hours later
Yeah.
and just blows you away that you wasted all that time on that. So I had to put a stop on that. And that was one of the ways I would try to initially, was just made myself do 25 or 30 push-ups after every round. And then I tried to get real crazy and do it after every time I died, but too much because I wasn't very good. So I died a lot. Had
Wrapping out
10,000
push-ups.
push-ups to do. But trying to implement that same stuff of, it works when you're training other people, but it can also work when you are trying to train yourself to like or dislike certain things. And for me, even YouTube's one of those. This weekend I was struggling with, of, I get in a spot with editing where I'm just pissed off and I can't get over a hurdle. And I want to just go watch YouTube and see if Mr. Beast dropped a new video and lay on the couch for a while. But even just not doing that and playing with Comet for a second or going and getting food, just the act of not reinforcing that helped me get back to actually doing the activity. Whereas I think if I would have hopped on YouTube, or I have in the past hopped on YouTube or got the dopamine hit, now that I'm thinking through it, I think I might have just been reinforcing that behavior of, thing is hard, brain hurts, go on YouTube. I'm just reinforcing the act of quitting the thing.
When I am a part of the majority that half read Thinking Fast and Slow. But the part that I did read, you did talk about that, like whenever the brain runs into, and I'm paraphrasing, but when the brain runs into a difficult task, it seeks an easier alternative. So like when I'm reading a book and I get past a certain point, like I notice I'm like, oh, like I should probably check my phone right now. Where it's like I'll be about to do some type of task working, going, like gonna do my follow-ups or my whatever. I'll notice like, oh, like I haven't been outside yet. I should probably go get some sunlight. And like I notice it in like all those areas, especially like YouTube. So anytime that happens, a frame that I has is like, I think it's just noticing it too, which I think is like so much of everything is just noticing when you have these trends, but just noticing that, oh, like I notice I am, craving to go do this, but like knowing that this is the thing you have to do and just overcoming that, like that in of itself is reinforcing the good behavior. But then again, it's whether you get a dopamine hit from that and the reward from that, or somehow reinforcing the reinforcement of that behavior. I think that, which I think is good with the whole, um, what do you call it? Where you set the timer for like 25 minutes and you get a 5-minute break.
Pomodoro technique.
Pomodoro, right? Like work hard for 25 minutes, you get 5 minutes of sunlight type of thing. Do rounds like that. I think that's a good way to get yourself contained. But I think a good frame is just having the mindfulness to know when your mind starts wandering, wanting an easier route, or maybe like a quick hit of dopamine through like social media or getting a snack or whatever your fix is.
Dude, totally. So many thoughts going on, and it's going to be more vulnerable than I probably want to go, but like, I think porn is a really good example.
Great example.
And when I haven't done that in a long time, but when I was doing that, the trigger for me was boredom. I think we've talked about this before, but like boredom and not having anything to do was a trigger for that. And giving into that is the ultimate dopamine hit, right? That's the ultimate rewarding that behavior. You have the trigger of boredom, you take the action of watching porn, and you're immediately rewarded for it.
And it's
That's just
easy.
a vicious cycle. So there's a couple pieces of that that really helped is one, just changing the environment and just making it so that trigger doesn't happen anymore was really helpful. And then two, noticing when that trigger was around to make sure not to reinforce that. And enough reps of that, of one, just distancing yourself from that trigger. And this could be for anything. It could be for drinking, it could be for not working when you know you should be working, it could be vaping, whatever your vice is. But yeah, distancing yourself from the trigger. When you do have that trigger, just reps of not rewarding that. You don't have to punish it necessarily. That might help. Like, might be something we could talk through what that might look like, but at least just not rewarding it. And then over time, that gets easier to not engage in that action that you don't want to have happen.
Yeah, 2 points. One they mentioned subtly was like just because you have that thought or feeling, you can use porn as the example. Just because you have that doesn't mean you have to act on it. Just because you're reading a book and you get the thought of checking social media doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing and pick up your phone. And I think this is a big talk in like mental performance in sports is being able to have the gap, but then two, lengthen the gap between stimulation and response. Kind of the whole Viktor Frankl thing, but just more in terms of not being in a concentration camp, I guess. And so, like, one, notice that you have the gap, and I think like mindful meditation helps with this. But then, if you can develop the skill, and I do think like emphasize like skill because it's extremely difficult, the longer you can widen that gap between trigger and response, like the more you could be working right now, typing out, email campaigns and get the urge to watch porn. But if you can notice that, oh, like I have this urge, like you're lengthening that gap between I have this urge, I'm going to do it. Rather, you get the urge because maybe it's just easier to do whatever that is you want to do. But if you can lengthen that gap and then make that choice of like, no, fuck that, whatever you have done to be able to negatively trigger that response, I think that gap and widening that gap is a elite skill to learn, and it's perishable for sure. I mean, I'm a firsthand account to that. So
With that logic, would you also want to do the flip side of that for positive things, shorten the response time?
1000%. I would want to make that as quick as possible and delay the gap. Because think about it in terms of maybe like what's an example? Because regardless, you're probably going to do the thing anyway. So like maybe getting out of bed in the morning in the wintertime. So a lot of us, it's warm, it's cozy, and this is some like motivational thing, but like you have to get out of bed. Like you have to do it. Getting out of bed being the positive response. And so training yourself to reduce that gap between urge and response and doing that quicker reinforces that good behavior.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
that makes
Like,
sense.
like if I wanted to go for a run right now, I probably wouldn't want that long gap between the trigger and response. I wouldn't want to, go fold my laundry or go water the plants, go, you know, clean my house and then go for a run because I just created this huge gap. Granted, maybe it was productive, I don't know, but the thing still hadn't been done. I'd rather scoot that up and do what was needed to be done in the first place, knowing that that was I needed to do it or was supposed to do it, and you know what I mean. But if that was something against, and I guess that's the whole thing is being able to deem what's good and bad towards whatever the person you want to be or what you're trying to achieve, gives you that inverse of shortening or widening that gap.
So you're in this instance, you're saying the trigger is triggering you to go do something that you may not want to do. So the trigger being a thought, I need to go on a run, or a calendar 30 minutes that you set up that says you need to work on this thing. That being the trigger, pushing you towards a thing that you may not necessarily want to do at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd all encompass it with just, I mean, like discipline. I think Jocko always wraps it back into discipline, but yeah, I mean, there's always some type of whether the good thing, whether that's a run or a call or a project or whatever it is, dinner, knowing that that has to be done that day and or is scheduled, you might prolong that as much as possible. Like, oh, I got to go do X, Y, and Z before I do that. But if that thing is something that gives you instant gratification, like porn, social media, dessert, like whatever, another episode of Netflix instead of going to bed. Like if you can delay and you can notice those things, because typically you either feel shittier afterwards. So like you're gonna feel worse after you do this, but we always because humans do this. If we can start to notice when we have those second events and lengthen that gap between doing them, I think you are I just think you're more versatile and more useful, I guess.
I like that. Yeah. So if you have a trigger that leads you to an activity or action that you know you want to do or need to do for yourself and your goals long term, shorten the gap between those two things as much as possible. So I need to go on a run or I need to get out of bed, shorten the gap between actually doing the thing from that trigger. And then on the flip side of that, you have a trigger that leads you towards an action that you don't want to have happen, overindulge in alcohol, porn, whatever thing you don't want to do. Widen the gap between that.
Yeah, and you can be strategic with it too. Like personal example, like I am a total person that like, oh, I'll do abs after my workout. Like I'm a victim of that guy. So when I start my workout, I'm like, oh, I'll do abs at the end. Like I'm widening that gap between when I do abs. Chances are I probably won't do abs. But if I say like, oh, I need to do abs today, or it's scheduled in my program to do abs, I just I shorten that gap, do it the first thing. So I close that gap between trigger and the actual doing. Now I get it done and I still have the rest of my workout to do. That's kind of maybe a good or bad example, but hopefully that gets the point across of once you can start learning that skill and using it for ideally good, you can be strategic with how you do it with even projects. Like maybe you have to do, and I think it's the whole concept of like eating the frog, right? But do your most important task first thing in the morning, or maybe doing the thing you don't want to do first thing in the morning. Because chances are the longer you let it go over time, the likelihood of that happening probably decreases. I'm sure there's some kind of study out there about that, but
That makes total sense. I'm wondering if there's a way to hack this in some way using the same framework of trigger, action, reinforcement, or punishment, right? Like those three things. Is there a way to make more positive triggers, more triggers that lead you to want to do something? So like a positive trigger for me sometimes, and YouTube can be a negative thing for me sometimes, but other times watching a Mosey video puts me on another level and I hop back on the laptop right away and I'm cruising along on work. So what are there positive triggers that we can fulfill, that we can make happen more often, I guess, which then lead to the positive action that we want to have happen? Like that'd be question one, I guess. And then question two is, can we reward more of those good actions, and how do we actually go about rewarding and punishing those actions?
two thoughts. One would be kind of what you're doing is if you're already doing the thing and you're just looking for a form of mentorship to help improve during the thing, like, I mean, I feel like there's some leeway there for that, obviously, because you're trying to learn and improve yourself on a task. Granted, if you go down the rabbit hole and you spend 6 hours just consuming random shit, might not be. There's probably a diminishing return on that at some point. Second is like practicing setting parameters, like giving yourself 10 minutes to scroll, but then maybe just like working on discipline too. Like there's always something to train for. Like giving yourself like, hey, I'm gonna go on YouTube for 10 minutes because maybe there's stuff you want to do or you want to take a break, but then getting back to the thing and then using that 10-minute mark as a reinforcement for discipline because you maybe want to work on that or something. But yeah, there would be, I think the only thing is you have to be careful of like getting too lenient with yourself. Like, oh, I'm doing this because I got Adobe Pro. So it's okay if I watch 4 hours of or YouTube right now. Like, I
Yep.
think you have to be strict with yourself when it comes to that type of, or else before you get too carried away.
Yeah, that's super true, especially in relation to YouTube is just the perfect example for me because that's the thing that I either get a ton from and I watch a Mosey video and right after that I'm on the computer grinding more so than I would if I wouldn't have watched that video. But then there's also the other case of instead of getting on the computer right after that, I watch 4 more hours of YouTube and I don't get
Right.
anything done the rest of the day. So
I
I
think it's also
wonder.
it too. Like maybe if you've been working all day long and it's 8 or 9 o'clock and you want to watch a couple hours of YouTube, just maybe that's your form of unwinding. Like I think there's like certain areas where you have to be a little less cautious of your habits, but maybe that also could be building a bad habit by doing that. So I don't know. I'm not an expert in that.
Yeah, I think the abs example you gave is a pretty good example though, too. And maybe I'll give like a slightly different example, but over the weekend specifically, Saturday actually. So I did like 90 minutes of editing in Premiere Pro and got 90 minutes of work in, and then I went and worked out, which was I got work in, and then working out for me was a fun release type of thing. It wasn't something I dreaded. It was something I wanted to go do. So that was kind of a reward for that. Then I came back and turned a movie on and then didn't get back to editing all day.
Right.
But then on Sunday, similar situation, edited in the morning for an hour and a half or so, went to the range, came back. But this time, instead of throwing a movie or show on, I said, I'll throw a movie or show on after I edit for 15, 20 minutes, made it something super small that I knew I could sit down and even though I just sit here for 20 minutes, I'll call that good kind of thing, made it just a super low hurdle. And then sat down, was able to edit for another 2 hours or whatever it is. Then got done, then threw a show on and was was way more happy and felt a lot better than I would have if I would have thrown that show on when I first got home. I would have been reinforcing not working.
Right. So I think
Whereas,
you still have that like looming thought in the back of your mind too of like knowing you should be doing something else. So there's a little easy
and
too of watching something, being like, okay, like I did what I was supposed to do. Like,
that whole movie Saturday, it wasn't even a good movie, dude. It was stupid. Pissed me off, actually. Because I was just sitting there and you get more and more tired and locked in and just, like you said, lengthening the gap between the trigger of I should go work some more and just like lengthening the amount of time. Like I could have jumped right on right then, but instead I said, I'll watch a movie first. Just keeps getting wider until doesn't end up getting done. Whereas Sunday, completely different story. Trigger of I need to go work some more. Immediately started working with the reward in mind that I would reward myself after I did that. And so and I'm like just thinking through all this right now. I wasn't actually thinking about this when I was doing it, which is kind of weird,
right.
but just flipping the order of those two things. So I still got work in and I still watched the movie. For like the two things, or TV show, the two things that I wanted to do with the rest of my day, but switching the order made it so that I could get work in. Whereas if I put the movie first, I didn't end up getting any work done.
Right. So I think that's where you get into the conversation of strategically placing whatever this concept is of, I don't know how we want to label that, but I think that's when you get to a certain stage of, maybe it's, depending on how you strategize your workouts or how you strategize your Saturdays or Sundays and getting specific work done.
I'm gonna make that more of a conscious thing for me now. It's been eye-opening conversation because I will definitely make that more of a conscious decision to look at my own decision-making processes and know that I have triggers that cause me to choose actions, and then I reinforce or punish those things. So pile up as many positive triggers as I can that are associated with the actions that I want to take, and then reward the crap out of those and
Quickly.
punish the rest. And yes, I like that too, of shortening the gap between the trigger and the actual thing.
Whatever, right. Because I think that's a huge part, is the length of time between whatever it is you're doing, delaying or progressing it.
Another thing, slightly tangential, but having that trigger and then choosing an action that gives you a reward but doesn't actually move you in the right direction. So example of that would be, I should go watch YouTube videos about editing, never actually getting any editing done, and then reinforcing that because just have a bunch of mental masturbation going on. So maybe that's
Right.
another thing to think through, of making sure that like the triggers go work, but actually do the thing, not something similar to it that I can justify to myself as the same thing. And then rewarding if I actually got work done, or punishing somehow. Still got to think that one through. But
Right. I mean, it doesn't necessarily, like, does it move the baton for
yep,
whatever you get done that day? And like the answer is yes or no. I think that gives you a pretty good
yep,
indication whether you should be doing whatever you're doing or not. But yeah, the negative reinforcement, maybe that's what we were talking about earlier, of whenever you do get that urge to do something you probably shouldn't, training yourself to somehow, like, if it's porn, maybe it's like you get that urge, switch it to, I don't know, fucking burpees, or like switching it for like an Alex Hormozy video, like
yep.
training yourself to, like, I don't know if that's necessarily positive reinforcement for a negative situation or not, but like, if I want to scroll on social media, flip that with, reading an article or something. I don't know, like, maybe get the point, but just training your mind to, like, once it goes to a certain area, like, you're not only lengthening the gap, but then you're training yourself to, like, look for maybe a more positive enforcing event.
Totally.
Obviously, baby steps, that might be kind of an elite.
Yeah, it's a good point, which is kind of what the initial question was, right? Of if we can train ourselves to have triggers for things, but then change the thing that actually gets triggered. It's like if you have a situation that triggers you to watch porn, let's say, you create an automatic loop in your brain to switch that action to something productive.
And I think in of doing that event, you lengthen the time between doing that thing and not. So
Yep.
within that gap between the trigger and doing the thing you probably shouldn't do,
Yep.
lengthening that gap allows you to go pick a more productive activity.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, that's pretty applicable. Like, like right after this, like, I know I have to run and go to the gym. So the worst thing for me to do would be, to go clean the dishes or
I was just gonna say the dishes.
yeah,
Why did
clean
that
the
come
dishes.
across my mind too?
I don't know, or like go on YouTube, you know what I mean? Like knowing that's what I need to do, and then like so I'll eat my own medicine as soon as this call's done, put my shoes on and go, and just train myself in closing that gap. Time to
Get some good reels out of this one, brother.
time to drink our Kool-Aid.
Time to drink the Kool-Aid. Get some B-roll in these dang shorts, man.
Throw some fucking comment in there.
What's what's the name gonna be? I like the name you had sent over, actually.
Oh, the
Yeah,
spar in the
the
season one.
spar.
And then like put whatever season you're in, or
Yeah, what? I'm trying to find it. Yeah, the spar journey to a million. I like that.
yeah. And then it just so like the concept stays the same, but like depending on how long we keep the podcast going, like it'll change. Like if we are doing it for 10 years, probably in 10 years, we're not hopefully still trying to get our first million, you know?
Yep.
I mean, I guess you still could keep it and it goes from more informational to coaching, but
Yep. I wonder if we make that the name, the spar journey to our first $1 million. How would that shape our conversations with people, our guests?
maybe we just, I don't know. That would, I feel like it would shape everything.
I think so too. If we, let's say we had my brother on, who runs a clothing line, Idaho living. He's not a millionaire, but he runs his own business, not an employee. He's in the day-to-day grind of building an asset and a cash flowing asset for him. So our conversations, I guess, could be framed from the perspective of we are making this podcast for us to learn how to make $1 million. Is that the frame we take maybe with those questions of is that our podcast? Is Jake and Braden two dudes trying to make $1 million?
I'm based off our last conversation, no. Because
Why
based on our
not?
last conversation, it was more around of branding and building like
Yeah,
a
isn't that our brand though? Or right now?
it could be, yeah.
Is that
It
is that
just be,
not is that not what we're trying to do?
yeah. But does that narrow what we want to talk about? Whereas, and I'm not like saying I'm for or against anything, but like if we were just to have it as like the intellectual sparring match, it would probably be more acceptable and not acceptable, but like it would make more sense for us to be talking about like neural linguistic programming and like other shit like that. Whereas like if we're talking to Nate Nasrallah, it would probably have to be narrowly focused on what it's like getting to your first million. Whereas if it wasn't like journey our first million and it was just that, like, you could talk to that guy about religion and how that plays a role in his day to day, like psychology and how he influences that in his social market. You know what I mean? Like you can start, you don't have as much boundaries. Like yeah, we could talk about fucking aliens. Like you could go the whole Joe Rogan thing. Like you talk about things that are more interesting to what you're talking. Like we can talk about sports, we can talk about psychology, we can talk about philosophy. Whereas like if I'm going on a podcast and it's 0 to a million, like it's business, sales, marketing, like entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Like it's more niched, which isn't bad. It's just, is that what we want?
Couple things out of that. The first being that neuro-linguistic programming, psychology, productivity, all those things could be framed of us trying to make ourselves better to get to that $1 million. So I think those all still fit under the frame of two dudes who want to make $1 million and who are in the grind to make $1 million.
100% could.
Aliens.
I think we'd always have to like, not aliens, that was a bad example, but do you think like we would always have to like bring it back to that type of frame within the questionings? Would all the questions have to revolve around
I don't
getting to
think
the first
so,
question?
because the frame is we we know that owning or running a business is the best way to $1 million and further, or that's the way we want to get there. Maybe we don't say best. Maybe that's the way we want to get there. And so when we talk to Nate, maybe the conversation, we'll see where it goes, but maybe Nate's, I don't know what Nate's net worth is, but maybe Nate's not a millionaire yet. So we can't necessarily ask him questions about how he made $1 million, but we can ask him questions about what his reasons for starting his own business were and what led him to do that, under the frame that we are trying to make $1 million and we are choosing the start a business route to accomplish that.
I think whatever season we're in would play a part in who we would invite on the
Yeah.
show,
Mm-hmm.
bar none. Like if we had a
Yep.
season on, which I mean, there are no rules. Like we can literally, anything we're talking about right now, we can, like there's, there's no he said, she said type of thing. But like if we wanted to have like a 3 or 4 month stint on psychology, I don't know, like that could be that season of whatever, depending on the lengths of seasons. Or but I think whatever we label that season as would be that target, that the target person we're trying to have on.
Agreed. All this stuff is going to come to fruition also. That was one of the videos I sent you. One of the YouTubers in there made that point too, that your niche forms itself once you do it enough times. You start to, on both accounts, you start to find the things that you like to create, and you start to find the things that other people like that you have created, and then you just go the direction where both those things are true.
Right.
So I think that will definitely happen for him. That guy, he started making YouTube videos about playing the guitar, and then making YouTube videos about how to study better, and then another one about how he was an MIT student, doctoral student or something, and now he found his niche as a productivity YouTuber. He's one of the leading people on productivity.
Right.
So he definitely did not start whatever he started with that in mind, or even that wasn't even part of his, like, that wasn't even in his scope. Couldn't even see that.
Well, then maybe we shouldn't even like worry about a season, and we
The spar.
just call it the spar.
Let's do it.
Or the intellectual spar.
I like I like the spar, and then we can explain in the podcast that we call it the spar because we started this thing called the intellectual sparring matches that we've been doing for a couple years. I just don't want to put the intellectual sparring match as I don't want it to be catchy. The
Yeah.
spar. Do you listen to the spar? Do you listen to the intellectual sparring match?
That's kind of a mouthful, huh?
It is, yeah. So yeah, if I was gonna tell somebody, yeah, we have a podcast called The Spar, be like, The Spar? The hell is that? That's dope.
Yeah, that can trigger some curiosity.
Yeah.
Well, first we got to probably make sure that.
Yeah, make sure that's not taken, and I'm gonna go freaking snag that baby.
Yeah, I might get a Google domain too,
Yeah, absolutely.
so people don't hold it for ransom.
Watch us go look for that domain, and it's 1.2 million.
I know, right? Nope, we're good.
On the podcast.
Something in German called spar. I don't think you pronounce it as spar.
Podcast name.
Fucking Germans. They have the spear. That's probably dope.
The Spar saved, baby.
We lock it in.
It's locked in. What I put in the description.
Got GBT it.
I was chat GPT in it the other day. Already got it open, baby. It's looking catchy Spar podcast titles. Weren't the best, but Spar, the Spar ring of ideas.
Let's see. Just gotta give it a good prompt. That's all she needs. Are you on ChatGPT 4?
Yeah.
Is it worth it to upgrade?
I honestly, I don't know because I don't use ChatGPT 3 at all. And I just expense this. Jake was letting me expense it. I haven't expensed it the last 2 months. So I don't know how Todd's gonna feel about it.
Let's see.
Oh wow. This is a long description, man. I just want a couple sentences. It knows your name, man.
On the internet? Well, it's because it's learning. We didn't have a
What?
podcast.
Oh, because I put it up here. My buddy Jake and I. Like, how does it know Jake's name, man? The Spar is more than just a podcast. It's a battleground of thoughts.
Oh.
What? From the intricate pathways of business strategies to the profound depths of philosophy. From the dynamic realm of sales to the ever-evolving journey of personal growth, we cover it all. Every episode is dude, this is above and beyond. I don't know.
Try saying rewrite in under 200 words.
Have you seen the recent TikToks where they put in the AI image generator? It says generate an image of a Mormon mom or a Mormon TikTok influencer.
Since I'm smoking hot blonde.
And they keep going. They keep doing iterations. And so it starts with generate Mormon TikTok influencer. And it says, make them more Mormon, make them more happy, make them more wealthy. And it just goes for like 15 of these things, dude. I'll send you the TikTok. It's hilarious. It just keeps going.
Is that the Dolly thing?
I don't know. I don't know about any Dolly thing. I'm not sure.
That's like, it's like ChatGPT's image generator, AI generator.
Maybe it might be one of those, something like that.
Welcome to the Spar, where ideas clash and insights emerge, hosted by your name and Jake. This podcast is an excellent battleground for discussing a wide range of topics in business, philosophy, sales, and personal relationships in a spirited and discussion. Challenge existing perspectives and explore new concepts. Our conversations are not just deep, or just even thought, but also engaging, accessible, making the spar the perfect listen for curious minds. For someone who loves a good brain. That's really good. Just as we tackle big questions, we bring have fun. That's really fucking good.
It is really good. And I wanted to fit the brand of two bros, or I could put at the bottom of this, generated by AI. I wanted to fit the brand.
Yeah.
Oh no. Already starting off horribly. Hey folks. Let's learn, laugh, and grow together.
That's pretty funny.
Are you watching the
Make her off the charts.
Yeah.
Jesus loving.
Yeah, that one's super funny.
Oh, I need water. We are done.
All right, I'm gonna copy this. The one that we thought was pretty good. Yeah, this one. All right, we'll start with this. It's gonna change eventually. All right, brother.
Did
Been
you
real.
did you get a better one?
Well, I tried to copy that one into the description thing, but it needs to be smaller. I got to keep it under 600 characters. Let me try it again.
Oh, it has to be under 600.
Yeah, under
Oh, I thought we wrote under 200.
200 words, 600 characters.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
yay.
All right, let's try it. I'll share my screen with you so you can watch it in action. Business philosophy and growth collide.
Just say right under 600 characters. Oh, you did.
Yeah. So I said rewrite this and
Welcome to the Spar with Braden and Jake, a podcast for business philosophy and growth collide.
I want to put an intellectual battleground. Yeah, it's just like a little too, what's it called? Like, I think it's something politically correct here. A little too peppy. You feel that?
Peppy?
Yeah, like tune in, spar with us, and grow. That's Disney. Oh no. The girlfriend's back. That's gay. You can't say that.
It's 2023.
I can.
You can't.
not say that.
You cannot say that. I'm gonna have to cut this out. Damn it.
Tune
Disney's
in.
gonna
Oh, you're
fire
recording?
you. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you guys were like done.
No.
Join us in tackling big questions spanning horizons in every episode.
You will cut that out.
Yes, I won't put anything bad about you. Only the stuff I say that's bad about you. Here we delve into the realms of
The show calm.
yeah.
Space for robust discussions in the first.
There's our 14-pound wiener.
Look at that hammer.
Like he doesn't have a boner. It'd be taking up the whole screen.
Yeah, 15-pound wiener.
He is. Yeah, he's got about 6 pounds just in the wiener.
Joins as we navigate important topics and encourage intellectual growth. Tune in for more insightful, thought-provoking conversations at the Spar. What's up with the emojis? Why is
Wait, what? Let's just take this.
hey fuckface? Quit giving me emojis.
I showed on the Mormon TikTok. That was hilarious. Yeah, that
Oh,
was
they
funny.
came up with more. I have to show you. They
Yeah,
they
send me
did
some more.
They did
Send them
more.
to Jake.
I love Mormon humor.
All right, we're just gonna keep it at that. We're gonna change it later. It's fine. And Lex has graciously offered to help us with our cover art.
Yeah, for what I asked for in exchange.
What about you have ChatGPT 4? You could try the Dolly thing.
Ooh, Dolly thing. Yeah, let me research
Go-
that.
I think it's all part of Pro.
Okay.
Unless I'm
Yeah, what do I explore maybe? How do I get it? Oh yeah, okay.
baby.
Now we're talking. Imagination into imagery.
So just type or copy and paste our description into that. This better be fucking cool.
Yeah, I'll work with this for sure. I didn't even know this was here. Not a touch, man.
Yeah, I gotta get with the AI program.
Strictly Mosey videos and Mr. Beast videos. Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
Braden and Jake. Yeah, that's
I guess we forgot to put the title in there. That's kind of cool still.
yeah, that's actually pretty dope.
Yeah. Take one of the long form ones, see what it does.
Yeah.
The one. Go back to the chat.
Yep. No, not that one. Oh yeah, it is.
That one. Yep.
Yep.
That whole fucking thing. Now we're getting it.
Oh yeah, he definitely needs fed, Lex. I haven't eaten, so we can go grab something. I think you said Chipotle was on you.
There with a no-oriented question. Come on, Dale. Ew.
Why? Quit doing the damn microphone.
You forgot to be rated. It's the microphone. Motherfucker. That has a lot going on, huh?
I wonder, can I upload images to this and have it do caricatures of us? Now that would be sick.
Got a little thumbnail right there, so probably
Oh yeah, this thing? Oh baby.
say incorporate these pictures.
Gosh. Where's your headshot at? You already sent that to me, I think, right?
So-
Yeah, you did. You did. Where the hell is that? Where
Ooh,
is-
that one's kind of cool. Even though it kind of revolves around baseball. The first one,
Yep.
the headphones, and like, I wonder if you could change that for like a brain.
Yeah. Okay.
You see where I'm going with that, or
It's just like, yeah, I like it.
what
This
sign?
There's just way too much going on here, but yeah, the base of this would be good.
Too much, yeah. Where does it say baseball? Oh, right there. Your background in baseball.
Yeah.
I feel like it has to do with some kind of like it's like a boxing glove in there or something, like the spar, like a boxing rink or something, or I wonder if this is what Steve Jobs did. Talking to his marketing people.
Incorporate something that sim
Oh, cunt. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, if we can upload our headshots and do like a caricature.
Can you type or can you attach them in that deal?
Yeah, I'm trying to find your headshot. Do you have that handy? You could just send it to me again.
You. Oh, which one did I send? Well, you should have. That was my LinkedIn one. I probably should send that.
Yeah, you sent it to me over Slack, I think.
Yeah, I'm just.
Ooh, we're getting kind of close. I'm not sure why. What the hell's going on with these, but
Yeah, it looks like a spatula on the left.
yeah, a spatula and a toothbrush. Kind of. Why does it say your?
Because you forget to put your name. You just keep putting,
Oh,
like, you put brackets your name instead of Braden.
damn it.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I spent so much time on this.
Yeah, good lord.
All right, let me save this baby. Download this beautiful headshot. In my
When did I find those? Steve's on the dick.
Ooh, okay.
That's pretty cool.
Getting there.
That one's also really cool.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close.
Maybe like encompass it in a boxing rink. See what that says.
What if we did it in the so when I think spar, I think like Spartans and Roman Empire.
Well, like spar is short for sparring. So like the sparring match. And like, I mean, I guess you can't spar as a
Can spar like in Gladiator, they were sparring, man. Ooh, that looks sick. You seeing this?
hold on, I'll come back. Ooh, that's tight. That's way tight.
Might be the one.
That's pretty cool.
see if this does anything cool. Yeah, that's nice right there.
That's way sick.
Just gonna use that. What do you mean?
You hooker. Ugh.
Come on. That's fine. Yeah, let's just use this one for now. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Oh, baby. I think right there's probably good. Spar. There it is. All right. And that is the process. Creating a podcast. See what Dolly spits out next, and then I gotta run.
Look at the Google domain.
Oh yeah, check that out for sure.
There's a there you go.
Yeah, it's not quite.
Ain't it?
I like this one. Yeah, that one's dope. All right. Well, it's been real.
Very real.
All right, we'll catch you later, brother.
All right, homie.
Hey, did you know that people who help others without expectation experience higher levels of satisfaction, live longer, and make more money? I'd like to give you the opportunity to experience this for yourself. If you enjoyed the video and you're willing to help out two dudes you've never met before, then click this button to subscribe. You will help us more than you know, and it only takes 2 clicks. Then click this video to watch more.